Hey, I got a question. So I'm a solo operator, and I was just driving around, running across a sign that was actually handwritten, nicely done on a white poster board for core aerations for $15 for per 1,000 square feet. I mean, and went through, did the math in my area at 5,000 square feet. That would be about $75 a lawn. That's your average. I charge like 165 from that. If that guy checks out with insurance, should I consider subcontracting him? Because I do quite a bit in core aeration.
That the specific person. That's a good question. So first off, how many core aeration customers do you think you have?
I will usually do about 60 in a season.
Okay, and so does that usually take you like 3 days in the spring and 3 days in the fall?
No, that's usually throughout the entire season. As they come in, it's usually about 3 per week. But this week I've actually booked up more mowing for the season than I had in the past. So I don't know if that's going to be quite doable.
Do you do them one time or twice a year?
One time.
Okay, so we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about $7,000 to $8,000 in annual revenue, and you're thinking about trying to sub it out to this person because they would cost you about $3,000. Let's just round it, $3,000 to $4,000. So the question is, this is what people think about when it comes to subbing: is it worth $2,000 or $3,000 in a year in profit to you to manage this person throughout the year? That's the question to be had, right? Because theoretically, if you know that they are insured, everything checks out, they do a great job, subbing them is a great idea. But I think that this is the question I would have. Do you want to risk them taking your customers and just having to still manage them and coordinate your mowing schedule around them core rating and all the rest of it for just $2,000 or $3,000 a year in profit? That's the question you might want to think about too, because you aren't at a scale where we're talking about $50,000 a year in revenue and $25,000 in profit if you sub this out. This is relatively small potatoes in the grand scheme of what you're trying to build. And so my question is, if you took that $2,000 or $3,000 in profit, and instead of spending it managing this other person, if you just spent that time doing your own thing, would it lead to getting more of the customers? What are you leaning based upon that? What are you thinking?
So what I'm thinking is that it's probably better for me not to manage that person. I know if push comes to shove, that if I need them to pick up maybe one or two, maybe that might be a possibility, I guess, to sub them out. But I wouldn't necessarily have him doing everything.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be trust too. Like obviously if you trust this person, you've worked with them before, that's a big thing. But typically, if you haven't had that working relationship or you know them somehow and there's a level of trust, I would be wary just at your size giving customers away. Because let's say those 60 customers are core aeration, but if you just assume you have like 80 or 100 mowing customers, well, if you gave 60 of them just to contact this other person or they're on their property, like that person could potentially go walk up to their door and say, hey, by the way, yeah, the guy who's mowing your lawn for $50, I'll do it for 35. Because if he's cheaper than you on a core aeration, really good chance he's cheaper than you on a lot of other things. And so I would be wary of that. And I'm not a huge fan of, even price comparison, but realize that someone can put on a good show for one service, right? So they could come do a really good aeration job and then literally tell the customer, oh, hey, you were charged $120 for this? Yeah. I'm only doing this for 50 or 60. Why not next time you just do it through me? Or, how much did he charge you for mowing? I could do that for, what about your mulch? And now they're upselling you, selling your customers. That would be my only apprehension, especially if you're trying to stay at solo model and you have 80, 100 customers that you kind of need to keep. That'd be something you really need to trust them over. And again, that risk, is it worth $2,000, $3,000 a month or a year in profit?
Okay.
Cool. So I know I didn't really give you a direct answer, but those are the things that I would be balancing out because only you kind of know how much you trust him, how much you depend on those 60 customers staying with you for other services, things like that.
Right.
So.
I mean, it's obviously, I don't know the guy at all. It's obviously like kind of a chuck in a truck. So that would be the first thing I would check is to make sure that I had proof of insurance before sending him out anywhere.
I think your idea of doing 1 or 2 would be a good idea. Give him a couple, see what happens, see if he talks to the customer and tries to do something stupid before you go and give him 60 of your customers that could potentially really, really hurt you in providing for your family.
Right. Okay.
Cool. Awesome, brother. You have a good day.